Exactly, that is what I mean. Three actor, right? When we were doing the comprehensive theory of karma, I took the actor as just the jiva, the man, right? I act. And what are the causes of my action and all of those things came in the karma. But now I am saying that is not the full picture. There is even further, you can go deeper into it. There are actually three actors when one is acting. When I am acting, it is actually three that is acting. And you said what? One is man, right? Or you can, even animals or any living beings. Then Prakriti. And then finally, it is the invisible hand of God that drives everything, right? That energizes, that invests the power of action in both Jiva and Prakriti. And what is an example? And what is I gave you a percentage of me acting and Prakriti acting. What is that percentage?
1% or 99.
Right? 1% my action, 99% Prakriti action. And what is the example I gave? Example I gave was
Tree. You gave the sunlight, sun, wind, all that was part of nature.
right.
And then
No. The example I gave was like when I'm lecturing now, right? I'm also blinking. I'm also breathing. I'm also doing all sorts of gestures with my hand. Am I breathing? Was the question. No. Right? Am I blinking? No. Okay, whoever was not there in the last class, you are surprised. Right? I think you were not there, right? Okay. I'm not breathing. I'm not blinking. I'm not making any gestures with my hand. I'm lecturing.
So the lecturing is in your control.
Exactly. When I say I do, whenever you say I do, it is in Sanskrit it is called buddhi purvaka karma. That means I am consciously doing it. So the 1% is the conscious investment or the conscious where the desire drives the activity within awareness. That is all that I do. Basically when I say I do, that is exactly that which I consciously do is what I do. Right? Everything that is below my consciousness, like blinking, I was never aware of blinking. Or I was aware of breathing, or about the gestures, or there are innumerable processes that's going on within the body which I'm not aware of. Only when it comes up to consciousness I become aware of it, right? So that means whatever I'm aware of, which is 1%, is what I do. The 99% is below my awareness, and therefore I don't do that. What does it? Prakriti, nature does it, right? So in any action, right, there are two actors always. One is my consciousness, desire, which is 1% of that activity, and then 99% of all the things that go on below that level of consciousness, which is also part of that activity.
So sleep. Within your mind, what you are thinking, is it in your control or is it not in your control?
What you desire is in your control. Like, let's say I want to recall something, right? I desire to recall something. It comes to my mind. Did I go bring it? No. It happened to me, right? You say it happened to me. When it doesn't happen, you wonder why. Probably I'm getting old, or something happened, so I cannot recall. So if recall was in your control, you could always recall, regardless of age or your disease or anything. But recall was never in your control. The desire to recall was in your control, not the process of recall, right? So that is one process. Look at so many processes, within us, so nature is like that assistant that you say, hey, go do it. And it magically brings it to you and you feel, oh, I did it. But what you did was, you just said, go bring it or go do it, right? Nature was the one that did the 99% of the job and brought it back to you, right? You are the 1% consciousness who desired to have it or do it. Everything else was taken care of by the body, which is below your control. You don't consciously control that.
So is that when you say consciousness, is that part of the chit? like Satchit Anand. So
Chit.
that's what your Chit is.
Right.
And your body itself is the...
Body is achit. Body is nature.
Right.
See, body and bodily functions are all nature. I don't control it.
But what's the Sat then?
Sat is existence.
Okay.
That's the very basis of everything, right? It exists, and it is aware, and then it's blissful. So
that's
Sat,
the
Chit,
part
Ananda.
of- the part of your body is the Sat. That's what is that right?
No. Yeah, Sat. Everything is Sat.
Sat.
That which is unconscious is also Sat. That which is conscious is also Sat. Right? So both a stone also exists. A man also exists. Right? So both exist. But a stone is unaware, man is aware. So there is a difference.
What Chit is.
Yeah, there's so in the natural world it is Sat only. In Jiva it is Sat, Chit and Ananda. Right? Without Chit there is no Ananda because you need to be aware of bliss.
Right.
Right? So it's all tied together. Existence, awareness and bliss all tied together in Chetana. That's what is Chetana means that. Right? So do we all agree? Or is there any question? Because now I have a question to all of you. Do you all agree that whenever we act, 1% is us, 99% is Prakriti?
Yep. I didn't realize that's the percentage was, but I guess.
No, I'm just making up the percentage. So it's minuscule. It probably is 0.01. Who knows, right? I'm just saying.
I thought it was always under my control.
Ahankara Vimudatma. I'm not saying. Right?
I did it.
Everybody does it, right? So, see, this is a set of 3 verses. In the first verse, Krishna is saying, this is how things are. In the next verse, how does a wise one approach it? And in the third verse, he says, how does the unwise approach it? So, these 3 will tell, hey, this is how things are. This is how the wise ones handle these things. This is how the bulk of people handle these things. So, if you want to become this, you need to act this way. That's what Krishna is basically saying, right? So, 1%, 99% or 0.01% in whatever it is, we are minuscule, right? Our intentions are minuscule, but what goes below the conscious level is the majority, vast majority of it, right? Now the question is, my question to you is, why is this important? Right? Okay, there are some illusions which are actually beneficial, right? Let's think about risks. If I tell you to consciously write down all the risks that you have, and you write it down, can you live? Right? This can happen to me, this can happen to my house, this can happen. There are so many risks that we completely ignore, and then that helps us to maintain sanity. Correct? How about this one? Maybe this illusion of control, because Krishna says, Ahankara Vimudatma Karta Aham iti manyate. What Krishna is saying is, what is Muda? What is Muda?
Ignorant.
No, Muda is ignorant. But Muda literally in Sanskrit means veiled. Veil. Muda. Vimuda means veiled. That means one whose understanding is veiled. And what is the veil? Ahankara. Ego. Ego is the veil. And this is not the ego of, hey, I am great. This is the ego which is the instrument or tool of survival. I'm talking about that. Right? I said, ego is a very necessary part of the mind, right? Antakarana. There are 4 tools, internal tools. What are those 4 internal tools?
Buddhi, ahankara, chitta.
Right? Manas, buddhi, ahankara and chitta, right? What does manas do? These are the functions of the, what in English we call mind. There is no one word in Sanskrit that is equal to mind. In Sanskrit, it's called antakarana, which literally means inner tools. What are those inner tools? Manas, buddhi, ahankara, chitta, right? We usually say manas is mind, which is not a good correct translation. I mean, it's mistranslated. Manas is specifically defined as sankalpa vikalpatmakam. That means it is first of all tool of attention. What is manas? Manas is a tool of attention, and also that which plans and that which thinks of different options. That is what manas is. Sankalpa means, oh, I'll do this tomorrow. That portion, that function is manas. Or should I do this, should I do that? That is manas. Right? And then your whole attention, where you fix your attention to know, that is manas. That's the faculty of manas. Manas does that. It is the tool of attention. Where your attention goes is manas. Manas is basically attention, focus, right? That's one. What is buddhi? Is a layer above that. Buddhi means nishchayatmakam buddhi. Nishchaya means what? When you make a judgment call on something, that is nishchaya. Okay, I will do this. Right? At the manas level, you are like, should I do this or should I do that? In the buddhi level, you are nishchaya. Okay, let me do this. Let me take this. Oh, that guy is bad. This guy is good. When you judge things, right? That judgment here comes from buddhi. Buddhi gives us the judgment. And then what does ahankara do? What does ahankara do?
Ahankara is a feeling of separation.
Ahankara is Bhedapmaka. That means ahankara is the tool that the nature has given to us to separate us from them. Right? As a tool of survival, it is of utmost importance that there is ahankara, otherwise you are not going to tend to yourself and survive. Right? I said, when you overuse ahankara, you are separating yourself from everybody and having that illusion of grandeur. Right? When you are underusing your ahankara, you become a what? A footrest, right? That anybody can use and throw. Right? It's a tool. It's a tool of survival. That what does it mean? Why has Prakriti given us the tool of ahankara? So that you can separate yourself from the environment and tend to yourself. When you lose that separateness, you lose yourself. You lose the identity. I mean, basically, ahankara means identity, where you are different from them. So you survive. Right? That identity helps in survival. When you lose the identity, then you don't survive. You don't tend to yourself. When you abuse the identity, you separate yourself completely and have these illusions of grandeur that you are the greatest, everybody is waste. Right? So both these extremes are not good. Right? Abusing and not using. Appropriate, optimal use of ahankara is what is? Its intended use by nature. If nature has given manas, it has a use. If nature has given buddhi, it has a use. If nature has given ahankara, it has a use. Right? If it's abused, then it's a problem. Okay? So, when Krishna says ahankara vimuda, that means when ahankara itself veils us, then the reality is 1% and 99%. But what are you thinking? Like you said, right? You said, hey, I thought I was doing everything. Right? That is a veil of ahankara. Ahankara thinks, makes you think, hey, okay, everything is my action. I did it. Right? So that's what ahankara is doing. So, ahankara vimuda. But my question to all of you is, why is that wrong? Just like ignoring the risks, gives us sanity, why not assuming control, empower? Right? That's what is one of the cornerstones of Western civilization, right? Empowerment. Why not empower?
It is always not successful.
What do you mean by it's not always successful?
They may not know the reality completely.
No. The reason the ego is shutting the understanding means that you think you are doing more than what you are actually doing. Right? But my question is, why is that wrong? Or why is that bad? Or why is it... See, you should always tie all this to what is the basis of Vedanta. Why is Shastras there? Why do you need Shastras? Why do you need Gita?
As a guide.
To what?
Knowledge.
What is the problem for which Gita is guiding you?
Day-to-day work.
What is the problem?
Attachment.
No, you're giving all solutions and all that. I am asking you the basic problem.
The cycles of how to live the life.
No. Basic problem. What is our everyday basic problem?
To go into the cycle of happiness and
Anand.
Suffering.
suffering.
Right? If there is no suffering, there is no Shastra. If you are happy always, why do you need to study Gita? You don't need to study Gita if you are happy always. Because what Gita is saying is, hey, people suffer. And I mean suffer. See, suffering is different from pain. Right? These are two different things. And I don't know if I explained this in the second chapter. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is not. Right? Suffering is at the mental level. Pain is at the physical level. Right? You can go through pleasure and pain and still be happy. Right? Happiness is kind of sitting on top. I mean, it's a mental state. It's not a physical sense thing, right? So it can be very painful. Like people who undergo a lot of difficulty to achieve something, the difficulty which is painful is actually very happy, right, for them. Because at the level of senses it's painful, but at the level of mind it is very blissful. So, do not misunderstand suffering to mean pain, right? Krishna is not talking about poverty here, because many times when I said, oh, man suffers, everybody says, oh, that's probably in the Stone Age they didn't have mobile phones, iPhone was not there, they used to suffer. Now we have TVs, we have all these conveniences. We don't suffer. Okay? Don't we suffer?
Absolutely.
Exactly, right? Whatever comfort you have, suffering, doesn't depend on that. Why? Because we adapt to every comfort that we have, and then you still suffer. Right? So suffering, so I'm talking about suffering. I'm not talking about pain. So let's be very clear. So it's not a question of poverty or richness. Suffering hits the high, the richest man and as well as the poorest man. Right? Suffering is there in everybody. Different kinds of suffering. One is suffering for food. One is suffering with too much of food. Right? All of these are diseases of excess, diseases of deficiency, those kind of things. So that's there. Suffering is there all along the spectrum. So I'm talking about suffering. Right? Suffering is there in man. Right? Whatever his class is, whatever his status is, whatever he is or she is, suffering is there. That's the basic problem. And what is the root of suffering? Is right? My question to you is, you need to tie this that, hey, assuming control actually perpetuates suffering or not. You need to tell me that. Does it increase suffering or does it decrease suffering? When you assume control more than what you control, which all of us are, mostly, right? We assume more of our control than what we do. Does it increase suffering or decrease suffering?
It increases.
Why and how?
Because you become more attached to the outcome, to the fruits of the action. So if you're in control of a project and the project fails, obviously you're going to suffer. Likewise, the flip side is if your project succeeds, you go through your cycle of you become excited.
Correct, but if that is the case, then I should be just disinterested in it, right? If I don't show interest, then I don't suffer.
No, you can show detached attachment.
Yeah, but where is the attachment?
Attachment is to the result. Sir,
No. See,
Attachment is to the dharma, your duty.
to the action.
Action. Yeah.
Right? So that is what it is, right? See, when I say 99% you don't do, that means they are beyond your control. So if things are beyond your control, and you assume control of it, and the outcomes are based on that, you desire an outcome, what happens? It's like lottery, right?
Yeah.
That means I desire a 1, but I don't control that 1, and some other number comes, what happens? Suffering. Right? So, lack of control is obviously, psychologically, lack of control brings suffering. I mean, that everybody knows that. If you don't control something, you suffer. Right? But also, where you control only minuscule of things, when you assume control, it also acts like lack of control. Right? If you do not control, you suffer. Basically, that's what it is. So what Krishna is saying here then? Hey, the lack of control makes you suffer. When you assume more than what you control, you assume that you control things that you don't control, and therefore you think you control the outcome which you don't control, and therefore you suffer because of that. Look at any suffering that we have, right, in everyday life today. It is either tied to permanence or tied to control. Everything that we have today, it is either connected to our illusion of permanence, or we thought it will always be like this. It changed and I could not change, right? Because I was so tied to that. You cannot let go. You want something. That's called craving, right? You crave. So that is one problem. What is the second one? Assuming control. Hey, I wanted to become this, but I could not. And therefore I'm suffering. I want my son or daughter to be this, but their interest is something different. I suffer. Or, so many things. Where you don't control everything, but you desire the outcome. Where you don't control the process or the means. And you desire the outcome. What happens? You suffer. Right? Suffering has two roots. Illusion of permanence and illusion of control. That's it. It's that easy and that difficult, because it is built into the DNA, right? The nature, that's how nature works. It's the tool of nature. Right? That which gives us sanity also makes us suffer. And that's what ajnana is, ignorance. We ignore it and we are sane, but that's the one that causes suffering to us. And it's like flip sides, two sides of the same coin.
It's a fine balance, isn't it?
That's why it's...
Because, you don't want to not do it, right? Because,
Exactly. That's why sattva is such a fine balance, because you overdo it, you go into rajas. You underdo it, you go into tamas. And so it's a very fine balance, to use these things. And that's why, you need sadhana or, practice. Right? Now let's see what Krishna says. So, is this very clear now? Or is there any other question? If there's anything else, you need to ask me. Because, okay, I said I'm going to ask you the second question. Let me ask before I go to the next verse. Okay, tell me this. Okay, if we all agree that at least, let's remove the invisible hand of God from this. At least, with my experience, I know there are two actors in any action. Me and the elephant on which I am sitting. Prakriti, 99%, right? That's there. We know that. Now the question is, suffering, bhokta, who is a sufferer? See, fairness, right? Dharma. According to me, the dharma should be what? Hey, if I murder somebody, 1% of it, I am responsible, 99% of it, Prakriti is responsible. So 1% of punishment should come to me, 99% should go to Prakriti. Fair? Isn't it fair? Now here, suffering comes to who?
The other way. 99% to me and 1% to
No, 100%. Whatever you do, even if there are three actors through you, suffering is solely you. Nobody will share your suffering. Right? That's what chit is. Chit, what differentiates you from me is you have the soul, the domain of your experiences. I cannot experience what you experience. I cannot.
But my action can influence Prakriti also.
Yeah, you can.
Small.
See, but the thing is, even when you do good action or a bad, let's say good action is fine, right? Good action, 1% you are doing, 100% you are getting. That's good. But bad actions, when you do bad action, even though you are 1% contributor to it, you are 100% sufferer from it. How is it dharma? Okay, that's my question to you. Hey, if A murders B, A gets dinged for 100%, but he is a 1% actor. Where is the fairness?
Because the 1% is the conscious
Yeah, so?
And the 99 is unconscious. So the intelligence part is resident in that 1%.
So what?
So I guess that's why that 1% feels the suffering. It's like this, okay? Let's say I have a stiff neck and I go to a therapist for a
Right.
massage. Okay? And the massager, relaxes my neck to the point where I don't feel any pain. So
Right.
the body has healed, okay? But I'm feeling it totally
Right.
relaxed. The enjoyment or the relaxation is being felt by the mind, I guess. The body is not feeling better. Body has healed. You see what I'm saying? Means the physical improvement is there, but that realization that the body has improved is by the mind.
Right.
So that intelligence part, even though it's the 1%, I made the decision to go to the therapist, get my neck massage, addressed. So that 1% decision I took.
Right.
I went there. The massager took care of my neck, and I feel better. I'm
Right.
enjoying the results of that action. So,
But why 100%? I mean,
yeah, I mean the body can't feel better, no? The body is healed, but the body can't feel better.
exactly, right? Let me give you an example, okay? Somebody is on the second floor, right? He drops a stone to a person who's standing below, and that guy gets smashed. Now, the person who threw the stone or just left it, plus the gravitational force, both acted and smashed that person. Now, can you punish gravitational force? Right? Exactly, right? You can punish or suffer where there is an intention, where there is a awareness. Otherwise, no. It is like stone falling. You cannot punish gravitational force, or because there is no intention, right? There is an action. See, Prakriti's actions are what? Actions without intentions. Purusha's actions are what? Intentions. So the suffering happens where? Not where actions are, where intentions are. Right? See, if a rolling stone, is it acting? Yes, definitely it's acting. But does it intend to act? No. Why? Because it is non-living. It is jada. Therefore, there is no punishment, there is no intention, there is no action to there is no intention to act. There is just action. Right? That 99% is like that. The 99% is unintended, mindless action. Right? There is no question of getting punishment. It's like, you are punishing gravity. You cannot punish gravity. Right? You punish the one who used the gravity to do something. Right? That's the reason why 100% suffering goes to a person, 1% of the person who initiated. Right? So where the suffering happens where there is intention, not where there is action.
So,
Right?
in case of elephant, don't sit on bad elephant.
No. Elephant will do your bidding. Right? Whatever you ask. And it never feels anything. It can go. Right? So okay. So these are the two questions, right? So you should be very clear. Even though we are 1% actors, we are 100% experiences, right? Because nothing else has any experience. So even God does not experience what I experience, right? So God just invests me with the power to act and power to experience, but does not get touched by the suffering of the jiva. So he's nirlipta. Nirlipta means untouched. So that's how it is. Okay, is it clear now? Okay, now moving on. We know this. We know what this illusion of control is. How it is a root of suffering. What is the percentage of mindful action, mindless action, all of those things. Now, how will a wise man in this world use it, and how will a fool use it? I mean, I shouldn't say fool because it's all of us. So, how will the not so wise use it? Right? So, Krishna says in verse 28, Tattvavittu mahabaho gunakarma vibhagayoho gunaha guneshu vartanta iti matva na sajjate. What is tattvavit? What is tattva?
Philosophical theory.
No. Literally, English cognate that and Sanskrit tat are the same roots, right? Tat means that. Tva is, in English you say ness, state of, right? Foolishness, state of being foolish, right? So tattva means thatness or objectivity, right? So reality, truth is tattva. Tattva means truth.
Can we say principle?
Truth. Things as they are is tattva, right? So tatya, tattva, all of those are truth. Mithya means that which is not true. Tatya and mithya. So tattva is that. Tattva with. One who, with means who understands, with, to know, one who understands this, the reality of illusion of control. Mahabaho, a one with broad shoulders. He's addressing Arjuna, that is, one who is very powerful man. Guna karma vibhagayoha tattvavit. That means one who knows the truth or the reality of what? Guna karma vibhaga. The divisions of gunas and the divisions of karma, as explained in the previous verse. What are the divisions of guna? First of all, let me ask you this. What is guna and karma? Are they related to each other or not? Because there is very interesting Western concept that's tied to this. What is a guna? Or gun in Hindi? Gun. Guna, gun.
nature,
Quality. Okay, quality. Right? What is karma?
it's an intention.
No. Karma. Yeah, but it's action.
Action,
right?
action oriented.
Yeah. Intention that's leading to action. Right? Okay, so how are guna and karma tied together? Are they tied together, first of all?
But the actions depend on your. That's
Correct,
what they
right?
say.
It is like potential and kinetic, right? In science, when you say potential and kinetic, guna is the quality, action is its expression, right? If there is no quality, there is no expression. So, in the Indian traditions, a good man is a man who does good actions. There is no goodness apart from good actions. In West, guna and karma can be isolated. Very, very important. You look at all this news and how they talk about good and bad people and all that. Guna is something separate, which is untied or loosely tied to actions. In the West. In India, it is completely tied to, in the West they can say, he's a very good man, but, he started doing this. Right? So the goodness of a man, a person, can be unrelated to his actions. That is possible in Western civilization. You can say, hey, he did all this, but actually he's a good man. Have you heard this anywhere on TV? You can watch from now on. You can be mindful of that, right? You can watch, and you can, if there's any issues or anything that goes on, and if that person was always found to be a very good person, and then he was caught doing something, they will start saying, hey, he's a good man. He did something like this. But in India, you are not a good man if you don't do a good action. That's it. You are not divorced from your action. Because guna is the potential from which karma expresses. You cannot have a good guna and have a bad karma. Your bad karma says you have a bad guna. Right? So you are no different from what you do in India, in Indian traditions. You can be different from what you do in Western tradition, in Western civilization.
So does your guna depend on your hatha?
That is what your guna is, right? Your hatha is what your guna is. Swabhava, hatha, guna, the same. Right? So is it understood? See, guna and karma is like, the potency or the tendency and the expression of the tendency. Karma is the expression of the guna. Guna is the potential of the karma. They are not divorced from each other. You cannot have bad karma emerge from nowhere. Bad karma emerges from bad guna only. Good karma emerges from good guna only. You are what you do. Nothing more than that. You are sum of what you do, nothing more than that. You are no good or no bad more than what you do. But in Western civilization, what they do is, they can differentiate a guna and say, he is the real I. All this is something happened to him, devil spoke in his ears, he did this.
It is because that's why they say you can get rid of your sins by repenting. Because it's not your guna, it was your...
No, not that much. I mean, repenting in a Christian sense is a different thing. Prayaschitta is a different thing. Prayaschitta is going through the difficulty to give up that karma, that bad karma. That is prayaschitta, which is Indian tradition. Repentance is a different thing. That I confess. That doesn't mean anything in the Indian traditions. Confession doesn't mean anything.
But in Western,
in Christian, yeah, it means something. But here, what Western civilization probably tied to Christianity, I don't know about that. But what Western civilization can do, or it does, is they can take the bad part out and still maintain the sanctity of that person, in spite of his actions. So the actions that you did was because devil spoke whispered in your ears, but you are really good. Right? That, thing, dichotomy, they have. That concept is there. But in India, hey, whether devil spoke in your ears or you are the devil himself, what you act is what you are. Nothing more than that. You are your actions. India, you are more than your actions. West. Very, very important. See, this is... Let me go back to, I think the starting of the class when we were doing traditions and religion and all that, right? Differentiating traditions from religion and all that. See, the West, British and US and all the Western powers now, they went about the world and say, hey, I see you like this, and therefore you are like this. Right? They made Siddhanta. Siddhanta means they made theories about Indians, they made theories about Middle Easterners, theories about Africans. They made theories of world. Right? Every domain of life, they made theories. Just like physics and chemistry, they made theories about people and societies as well. Right? Law, people, societies. But the whole world accepted that as the universal truth. But the truth of the matter is, it is how they see it. Not essentially, it is the reality, right? It's a point of view.
It's relative.
Right? It's a point of view, right? It's a point of view which we take as the truth, the reference, right? The golden standard. But what Indian tradition used to do at one point of time, long back, was they would have what is called as Purva Paksha and Siddhanta. That means when two schools of thought debated each other, one school of thought should summarize all the the concept of the other school of thought and make sure that the other person agrees that that's what their concepts are before they even debate. That means the concept of Purva Paksha means understanding your other, right? Understanding your other to the agreement of the other, and then debating. At some point of time, this understanding of other stopped, right? So, we today do not have a theory of West. Have you ever felt about, hey, this is how they act, this is what they do, this is how they go about? Have you ever done such theories? Have you seen any books? Maybe I have seen some, but it is in some universities. That's it. It is not common study, in India, where, hey, India studies the other, the West, or the Middle East and all that, and says, hey, this is how they look at us and they make theories, and this is how they are. We don't have any of those social sciences at all. We focus more on engineering and medicine. That's a different thing, right? Yes.
The other thing I would add to that, I think I'm familiar with this concept of Purva Paksha. What really hurt Hinduism is that traditionally Purva Paksha was done amongst the dharmic family religions, right? Like it was with Hindus and Buddhists and Jains, which is like very similar.
Right.
But then when you had these non-dharmic religions come, they didn't do Purva Bhaksha with Christianity.
Exactly. And why is that?
Somehow, I don't know why it is.
Because see, when the debate was between one school of thought within Hindu traditions and say Buddhists or Jains or any of them, they agreed to a common, at least a minimum common, concept, right? Pratyaksha, right? Direct experience is the best. We both agree that truth comes from direct experience. Even the atheists in the Indian traditions agree that yes, we can know from direct experience. So you can debate somebody where you have a common framework, right? Now a Muslim comes, a Christian comes, he says, I believe in this fellow. What do you debate with that person? Right? See, the idea of Indians not being able to handle Islamic, invasions or British or Western powers coming into India was this one fact that they cannot handle faith. You cannot debate faith, right? If I say I believe in a creed, son of ghost and son of God and this thing, and the only liberation through Him, how do you debate such a person? That is where it failed, right? They should, instead of doing that, they should have reflected on, hey, why is this person saying such a thing? Like what we did in the beginning of the 3rd chapter. There's a difference between a religion, which the core of which is faith, and a tradition, the core of which is actions. So these are two different things. This is what? This is making a Purva Paksha of the other, right? That means you are trying to understand the other. When you understand the other, it is demystified, right? You no longer are mystified by the other, because now you understand what drives them. If you don't understand what drives a person, you cannot handle the person, right? You cannot handle the person or the civilization. It works the same way, right? You need to understand what drives, what is their theory of mind, what is their, what drives them. If such a Purva Paksha is not made, a position is not made, what happens? At one point of time, there was a power asymmetry, right? The West became more powerful than the Indians. When they came to India, they were not more powerful. They grew more powerful after their occupation of India, in the British. Industrialization happened after colonization, not before it, right? So, then, what happens? Role model comes, right? The more powerful you are, what you say, it becomes my Vedavakya. Hey, this guy is too awesome. Whatever he says is the truth.
There's a saying called history is written by the victors.
Victors, yeah, exactly, right? That's how it is, right? The one who is powerful, when he makes a theory, the powerless or less powerful take it, right?
So you think that's how the spread of other religions spread in India? Is it because so if there was no thought of them opening up to the other, why would they accept the other religion?
Can you...
Like in India, you said we lost that thought of
Purva Paksha, correct. Yeah.
So if that is the case, then why would India have so many different religions?
It doesn't have religions. What religions it has?
So many different faiths, I should say. So many
Traditions.
different faiths, okay. Yeah. Because accepting...
In this class,
Yeah.
please don't talk about many religions in India. There are many traditions, many different schools of thought. There are no different religions. Right? Religions is faith-based, right? So there's no faith. Faith is a part of tradition, but the core of tradition is action, right? So there are different there are different schools of thought, which you can have, right? You can have different points of view, right? That's fine. But when somebody claims faith, you cannot debate with that person, right? When you have reason, I have reason, we can reason together. When you have faith, I have reason. What can I reason with you? You cannot, right? Exactly. But you were also saying why they accepted?
No, meaning is that again that faith grew in India and other parts, right? But especially when we're only talking about India, if there was no Purva Paksha,
Right.
the thought of that, at least understanding and accepting, why did that grow?
Understanding and accepting is not there. Understanding and debating is there. Just because I understand the other person, I don't accept the other person's point of view, right? It's like You debate with them because you don't accept. But you understand them to debate them.
In other words, if we never accepted it, why would it grow?
Even today,
Because of,
induced by,
victory,
how is it growing today?
yeah.
Ford Foundation. So, they spend a lot of money, right?
So in India, there was a lot of historically, especially in the Middle Ages, medieval ages, between say Dvaita and Advaita philosophy within Hinduism. There used to be a lot of debate, scholarly debate,
Right,
that lasted centuries.
right.
But that's a good example of how Hindus would, handle other thought patterns, if you will.
Right. So there is I think during the time of Akbar, which is probably 16th century, he tried to create a new religion and all that, right? So they invited scholars from different schools of thought within India, and you can see the mention of atheists being there. Buddhists came to that assembly. Different Sankhyas, Yogas, all of these different schools came. And then they presented their concepts. 16, huh? Deen Ilahi, yeah, that was what he tried to do. So that, and you can see that even up till 16th, 17th centuries, atheist schools were there, Sankhya school was there, yoga school is still there, but not as a school, but as exercises. But yoga school was there. All these different schools were there. Then all of those got lost, and only the Uttara Mimamsa, like Dvaita, Advaita, Vishishtadvaita, and some smaller schools, they remained. But that is just a minuscule of the number of traditions that existed before, right? Sankhya tradition no longer exists. There is nobody here who will say, my tradition is Sankhya school. Nobody is there. Nobody is here from yoga school. Nobody is here from Vaisheshika schools, the theory of atomic particles and all of those. That was a school, Vaisheshikas, right? Nyaya, school of logic. They used to debate with logic and tools of logic. That school no longer exists.
So were these just sciences?
They were schools of thought.
Yeah.
They were thoughts about existence and the world, right? How world, and basically they're all kind of trying to give solutions of why do we suffer and how do you put an end to suffering. Basically, all these schools are that, right? Yoga school, Sankhya school, Nyaya school. Nyaya school says that you can use logic to bring an end to your suffering. If you think logically, you can stop suffering. That's Nyaya school. Right? So all of these schools were basically solutions to the problem of suffering. They had their own root of suffering, their solution of suffering. Right? So all these things happened, and because of the social chaos and all of those things at that point of time, people did not do the Purva Paksha, or if they did, it did not spread. And so now, I did not know about Christianity and to a very less extent about Islam until I came to US. I was not even interested, even though I used to read Gita and the Upanishad and all that before, but only when I came to US, and that was I think around 2000 something, there was a website called Sulekha.com, I don't know, people at that time, where there was a huge debate on Wendy Doniger, and Rajiv Malhotra was a guy who wrote a huge article and all that. That is when, they were a call for, hey, we need to do Purva Paksha of the other and all these things. That's when I got interested in Christianity and started studying Christianity. And then I got interested with Dr. Bal Gangadhar and all that. I don't know if, how many of you were here when we invited Professor Bal Gangadhar Rao from Ghent University, Belgium. He gave a lecture here in Woodlands, Montgomery College, 2007, I think, 2007, 2008. And he is the only research that I know of that's working on, this is a department of philosophy in Ghent University, Belgium, that's working on how do Indians see the world. And that's the research. Interesting, right? So, that's the Tattvavita. Tattvavittu Mahabaho Gunakarma Vibhagayoho. Guna Vibhaga is Sattva Rajas Tama Guna, and Karma Vibhaga is Satkarma, Mishra Karma, Asatkarma. Good actions, mixed actions, bad actions. One who knows this, one who knows that when I act, 1% is mine, 99% is Prakriti, there's an invisible hand. So all these details of how actions proceed from guna, all of these, when he knows the reality, what does he think? This is very important. He says, what is the time?
Don't look that long.
Okay, that's 15 minutes. So guna guneshu vartanta iti matva nasajjate. That is the fantastic solution. How wise behave with this reality. He says, guna guneshu vartanta iti matva nasajjate. Sajjate means become consumed by it. Magna. Right? So when something consumes you,
Obsessed.
right? You get consumed by it. You get attached to it, consumed by it. That is magna, being consumed. Nasajjate means not being consumed or basically being detached. Right? He's saying he'll be detached. Realizing what? Why he is detached? Because he thinks, the wise thinks, gunaha guneshu vartante. Gunas are in gunas. Therefore he is detached. Okay, now anybody explain to what Krishna means? That's why you need commentators, right? Because Krishna is saying guna guneshu vartante. Basically, Krishna might have said something, but Vedavyasa is putting it in this language, and this poetry we don't understand, right? So guna guneshu vartante iti matva nasajjate. What does that mean? What this wise one is thinking is the first principle of Sankhya. I am not the body. Right? There is a jiva and there is a body. Right? Whatever is happening because of the body. Right? When you get angry, what happens? It is your body reacting, correct? Your heart rate goes up, your blood is in your hands and legs, and you're ready to kick and fight, right? So what did Prakriti do? It is not in your control, right? Did you say, okay, let me bring my blood here? No, it happened to you. So you got angry. What is anger basically? You think something wrong happened to you. You were wronged. Basically that's what is the root of anger. So you were wronged. And therefore the blood now flows, your digestion shuts down, now
Ahankara in that.
there is ahankara in that, yes. Right? Now you have blood in the fist and you're ready to fight. Right? So anger brings action. I said anger gives you the power of action, which is a good thing. Right? But abusing that power of action is the bad thing. Right? Now, all that is there, all that is below your conscious level. Who is acting there? Who acted there? No, right? Your body. Your body, what did it do? It's a physiological process. It started something. It sent blood here, blood there, and all of those things. It energized you. What is it waiting on? What is the body waiting on?
Take the next decision.
You to be consumed by it. Right? See, that is basically what it is, right? See, body brings things up to your conscious level. Until you consume it, you are consumed by it, you don't act. Right? If you maintain the distance between you and the body, see basically how the body works, how Prakriti works, that which you attend to multiplies, that which you don't attend to withers away. That's how it works. Prakriti is like that. Right? Prakriti is like, hey, if you show attention, that part will increase. If you don't care about it, it withers away.
But the trigger for the body to get all enraged is still the mind.
Yeah, it is.
There's a trigger.
There's a trigger.
The body reacts to that trigger.
Right.
And whether to pull the trigger or not it depends on how consumed you are.
Exactly, right? I'll just give you one example of anger. It is true of jealousy, it's true of envy, it's true of everything. As long as you don't get consumed by it, you do not act on it. Right? That is what detachment means. Detachment means the ability to not be consumed by the bodily functions which provide you with the power to act a certain way. That is what detachment is. Right? Nasajjate means that the body is saying, hey, I give you the power. You're all ready, you're all feeling all powerful. Now, what? When you go and embrace it, it will take you on a mindless ride. Right? If you're mindless, you'll be taken for a ride, right? Because if you're mindless, that means your 1% is not acting. It is like action and reactions are going together. In animals, can they have this separation between action and reaction? You hit something, it gets angry or it gets scared and it runs away. Does it stand and think, oh, this guy is hitting, my body is fear, I'm feeling this fear here, it's coming. Does it think? No. Instinct, right? What is instinct basically in Sanskrit? Prakriti, right? What is instinctual means that which we have gotten, which happens to us, not we doing it. So Prakriti does all this. It's its job to do, right? The Prakriti's job is to cover you and give you these tools. Hey, this situation is happening. I'll give you this tool. Do you consume it? Yes. Okay, now run. That's what is happening. There is an action. Prakriti says this happens. You want to consume it? This happens split second. And when you consume it, what happens? You become part of it, and then you act on it. So basically, things happen to us, then we act on it. That is our reaction. Our reaction is acting on the bodily impulse. Guna guneshu vartante is thinking that all these things, my blood has come to my fist, all these things happening, and now I'm feeling this energy. And then thinking, this is the nature of the body, this Prakriti is doing, fantastic. This is the mind of a person who's inquiring, who's looking at it curiously. Oh, body is becoming angry. Oh, see, look at my heart. Oh, it's beating fast. What is happening there? You're not being consumed by it. You're a very curious observer of it. Right? You're looking at, look at this. My full energy. Oh, look at this. My fist is gotten hard. Very hot. A lot of blood there. That thing is happening. What is happening? You're still the chit, but your reaction is not one of being consumed by it, but one who's looking at it in curiosity.
This brings up a point in Buddhism, for example.
Mindfulness.
Correct mindfulness.
Yes, that is exactly what this is. Gunaha guneshu vartante iti matva, thinking this, nasajjate, he is detached. Oh yeah, it's my heart is beating or I'm feeling scared. See, my muscles are acting this way. Oh, so fantastic. Biological miracle. If you think like that, you'll not be scared. You'll be scared when you're consumed by the fear, not when you're curious about the fear. That is the thing, I think.
So the difference between us and animals, it really boils down to this, whether we have the choice of not being consumed or being consumed by Prakriti.
Exactly.
No choice.
That is that 1% which is more powerful than 99%. Because whatever in Puranas and all, they show this as the dance of Prakriti. Prakriti is that beautiful girl who is dancing. You have a choice to go behind it or not to go behind it. They show that in the Puranas, and that's what it is. Hey, it dazzles you. It wants you to be consumed, but you have the choice to either look at it very curiously, and if you look at it curiously, what happens? It loses the charm. It wants your attention. It's like that person, you give them attention, they'll grow in ego. You don't care about them, they'll wither away. It's like that, right? It's like that psychology. It's like that. Here, hey, the anger is there, everything is there. You are looking at it with a curious attitude. It wants you to consume and act. Then you're not acting, it withers away. See, this one is what? It's neither expression nor suppression. I said both of these techniques don't work. Right? Neither expressing anger nor suppressing anger doesn't work. This one works. This is the only one that works because it neither suppresses nor does it express. Nor are you consumed by it, nor are you suppressing it.
That still doesn't mean that you should not oppose the injustice that is occurring.
Definitely, right? But you're opposing with you in control, not you in control of the body, right? That's the difference. So, nasajjate means he's unshaken by all the things that the body, which when reacting with the world, naturally, instinctually does. He can now watch all this with a curious mind and then choose to react the way he wants. That is the power. That is the empowerment. The real empowerment is not assuming control, is being able to detach and be in control. See, that is the fantastic concept.
What enables a person to become detached? Is it this knowledge?
Exactly, this knowledge.
Knowledge that...
That Krishna starts with this jiva and the deha are two different. Why? Because that invests the person with the power of separation of Prakriti and the Purusha.
So we learn about this, we know about this, but we walk out of the classroom and we still behave in our normal routine. So
Yes.
we know about it.
Yeah?
So what's that point where we actually
Practice, sadhana, right? That's why you need sadhana. Because the 99% of it, the 99% that makes what you are, is below your conscious level, right? And those are your habits and all of those things. You need to consciously change them one by one, and then once you change them, then they go in a new direction. That is sadhana. Right? Sadhana doesn't happen overnight. Sadhana is...
But I might enjoy being hot-tempered and expressing anger. Some people are like that.
It's fine, then you enjoy suffering then.
But I still know that this is the reality, this is the truth.
Right.
This is the highest teaching. I even accept it.
Right?
But I still go out and I enjoy, the adrenaline rush and
Rush, yeah.
excitement.
Right.
So I think that's the key. Is what's
Not you, not just you, all of us.
Motivator. What should motivate me to say change my mode of operating? That's the key. I think that we have to learn.
How much suffering are you going to get?
How, yeah.
That's what.
Are you okay with the suffering that all these bring about? If you're Vedanta doesn't say all of us need to go on the path of mukti. It doesn't say, hey, if you are okay with this suffering, be my guest. Prakriti will take you in the cycle. Go in the cycle. You suffer. You'll be happy with the suffering. That's fine.
See, what's suffering, right? What is suffering? In essence, they asked the question in Ramayana to Hanuman. What is suffering to him? And what did he say? He said, Kaha Hanuman vipati prabhu jabatava sumirana bhajana na hoi. Where there's no bhakti, there's no praying to God, that's the real suffering I see. Rest is not suffering. It's that mind switch to say, okay, all the rest away. And as Sunil explained previously, Srita Pragni, whether it's sukha or dukha, it takes it equally. True. But the real suffering is getting out of that cycle.
Right. See, we may enjoy all this, but we all know, right, we suffer because things are not in our control. Basically, we are in a world where we control a little bit. A lot of things are not in our control, and therefore the outcomes are not in our control. And so we wish for something to happen, but something else happens, and therefore that...
I brought this question up because this is the challenge facing all of us, knowing this knowledge and being motivated to, live it.
I think what Krishna is saying here is, first of all, start to bring the distance between what the body wants you to do and you. The more I think the more you practice, that's what sadhana, right? Like what the Yoga Sutras say, abhyasa and vairagya. Without abhyasa, nothing happens. You need to abhyasa, means practice.
So this is where there can't be that void, like Spock in Star Trek. I don't know if anybody saw Star Trek,
Right.
He was this detached, cold, emotionless thing. Humans need something to grab onto. We can't live in a void or the shunyata, So that's where bhakti, I think you mentioned bhakti. Bhakti can fill the hole.
Let's not go to bhakti now, because we need to demystify it at this level. Bhakti is the highest expression of one's bliss comes there. That is the next chapter. So we'll deal with in the next chapter, right? Next, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, all of those things come. We can deal it there. But the basic thing that we need here is the thing that we suffer because we are consumed by what the body does to us, and therefore the more you bring the distance between your reaction and what the body wants you to be consumed by, the more it helps you in the sadhana. That is what sadhana means. If somebody, we have this tendency to use all these Sanskrit words, but these are mystified, right? Unless you know what it actually means, sadhana means what? Sadhana means not something mystical. Sadhana means bringing this gap between your reaction and the impulse that comes in. That is sadhana. The ability to handle yourself. So this is the one that's the root of taking, pleasure and pain equally, equipoise, equanimity. Right? Without this one, there is no equanimity of mind. You cannot. Right? If you are attached to, pleasure, you are averse to pain. So if you are attached to one thing, you are averse to another thing. So when you are detached from both, that's when you are equipoised. And how do you detach yourself? This is the thing. It will, all that the body does, in every situation, right, is to do all these things, which is physiologically what the body does to anything that happens, be it fear, be it anything, any arousal, anything happens, it happens to the body, right? And when I say body, I mean the whole, what in the West they call mind and body, both. But all these things happen and is seeking what? Your attention. You attend to it, you consume by it, it goes on. It takes you on a joyride or a nightmare ride, whatever it is. You are not consumed by it, then it withers away.
Even being aware of this itself is a big step.
That is the starting point.
Because most of the time we are not.
Exactly, right? We are unaware of so many thoughts that go on in our mind that, at least cultivating that. That's why Buddhism has this beautiful concept of mindfulness, which is also what Gita talks about, ignorance and mindfulness. That is, first of all, be aware of what is happening, because we are traveling on an elephant that is going wild. The first step is to stop and be aware of the things that we are doing without us even knowing. That is the starting point. And then you can bring the distance between us and the Prakriti. The Purusha and the Prakriti, that the first concept that Krishna spoke of in Sankhya is this. So, is there any other question? What do you feel? Just give me your feedback.
This is really good. We're getting into the real.
We are getting into the core now.
Yeah.
Sometimes, don't take this wrongly, but I get more depressed after that.
So I'm doing something wrong then. No, this should be empowering. I don't know why you're doing it.
It's empowering. No, it's depression in the sense like, I know this, I can control this, or I should be able to control, but I don't do it, right? So all that struggling and the lack of knowledge.
Right.
So lack of not knowing my own dharma.
So now you know.
Now you know. Now you have the information.
At least in what Anandji said, at least mindfulness of being aware of it is very
Right.
important.
Yeah, that is the, I think, the first step is awareness of what's going on. Otherwise, if you are unaware, see, change starts with awareness, right? You're not aware of it, you don't change. So that the light of manas, which is bringing the light of chitta, which is with your chit, the atma, when the light falls on that which we did not see before, that's when you can make the change. Okay, so in the next class we'll look at how all of us act in these situations, which is what the next sloka is, and then the summary of the Karma Yoga, which is the 3.30, the 3.30, the 30th sloka, gives us the whole philosophy of life in one sloka. This is how one will be or one should be to be called a Karma Yogi. So that's Krishna summarizes that, and then after that, very insightful dealing of the subject of desire. What is desire? How does it arise? How do you get rid of it, and all of those. Tied into it is the theory of creation. So we'll discuss the theory of creation in Indian traditions and all of those things. which I did actually, because that last portion of it is actually taken from Kathopanishad. Right? Kathopanishad has the last shlokas, and I did the theory of creation when we were studying Kathopanishad. So we'll do it again because I think most of you were not there at that time. So we'll look at, does Hindu traditions talk about evolution or no, or something else? Let's see that. Or did
I have this class every week.
or did Brahma come and say yes, 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 and something came up? Hiranyagarbha came and everything started at once, and now we'll look at that. Okay. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanura Mardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagatgurum Om